going to say there are two things. One is that there are 5 habits that we want to adopt in order to be an outthinker, to outthink the competition. And then there's a new playbook that we want to embrace. And at the end of this, when we go to the new playbook, I'm going to invite you to do some brainstorming about your business and how you can disrupt your competitors by using this new playbook. Okay? So first, 5 habits. If we look at these outthinkers, how do they adopt a new paradigm? They do 5 things. The first is what I call mental time travel. The ability to transport ourselves into the future, visualize a future that's different than today, paint out all the details, and start planning for that different future. Some people are good at that, some people aren't so good at that. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about each of these in a little more detail. Second, attacking the interconnected system. They look at the system rather than the elements of the system, and by looking at the interconnections between the system, they see a point of leverage that others don't see. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Frame shifting. They shift their perspectives on the problem many times, and that allows them to see more possible options that others see. The fourth is a disruptive mindset. That of those ideas, they pick the ideas not only that customers are going to love, that our clients are going to love, but those ideas that also the competition will not be able to copy for a long time. Finally, perception shaping. These 4 give you that great disruptive idea, and then becomes the challenge of shaping other people's perspectives so they see your idea as a great idea. You know, they say Steve Jobs had a reality distortion field around him. That's something that we see in many of these innovative outthinkers, that they're able to shape people's perspectives to have them see the idea as a great idea. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these, and then we're going to go deep into frame shifting and the new playbook. So mental time travel. Mental time travel, as I said, is the ability to transport ourselves into the future and visualize a future that's different than today. You could say that this is what distinguishes humans from animals. Very few animals show an ability to do this. And everything that we assign to civilization is possible only after we can travel forward in time. Look, why would you plant a seed? Why would you build a weapon? Why would you save food for the winter if you couldn't imagine a possible future and plan for it? We develop it around the age of 3, and then we keep developing it, some of us to higher levels than others. So, for example, I have 3 children. One of them is 5 years old, 3 years old, and 1-year-old. And the 3-year-old and 5-year-old, they go to school together in the same building. And I walk them to school. I don't walk them. I drive them to school. We walk into the building, and we inevitably get into the same debate every time. And that debate is that my son says, I want to drop my sister off first because I want to see her room and my room. And his sister says, I want to drop my brother off first because she just repeats whatever he says and wants the same thing. And so there's one argument that works for my son that never works for my daughter, and that is I get on my knees and I say, Lucas, how about this? How about if we drop you off first today, and tomorrow we'll drop your sister off first? And you see he looks up and his eyes kind of glaze over, and he is imagining the future. He imagines tomorrow. He's dropping his sister off first, and wow, that feels good. You know? Then he comes back to today, and he wakes back up, and then there's something like a 50% chance, that he'll agree. But at least I've narrowed him down, 50%. Now, when I make that argument to his sister, she always says no. No, I want what I want today. And that's simply because she is just approaching that age of 3 where we're able to start visualizing the future. They've tested this. They've given children the option of 2 stickers tomorrow versus 1 sticker today. After the age of 3, they start picking 2 stickers tomorrow. Before the age of 3, they always want 1 sticker today, 1 sticker today. Now, some of us develop at a very high level. People like me, I'm not so naturally great at it. So there is a way that we can consciously practice what these outthinkers do intuitively. And we don't have time to go into this, but when you get the book, it'll walk through one process that you can use to imagine the right future for your business. Okay? So that's the first habit. The second habit is attacking the interconnected system. So after you imagine the future, you want to find a point of leverage that others don't see. Scipio Africanus, he found that point of leverage. He's a Roman general, and he was given a job that nobody else wanted. Hannibal had famously traveled over the Alps, in his elephants, and he was roaming the countryside of Rome, attacking Roman protectorates. And many generals had tried to attack him, and they all failed. They just couldn't seem to beat Hannibal. So the Senate asked Scipio Africanus to take on the job. The great thing about taking on a job that nobody else has succeeded at is that you know that the usual approaches don't work. You know it doesn't work. So he stepped back and he said, well, let me not attack Hannibal. Let me attack the system that is Hannibal. And when he attacked this system, he saw the point of leverage. He turned his back on Hannibal, and he marched his men westward. They went all the way to a town, let me go this way, sorry, all the way to a town called New Carthage, now called Cartagena in Spain. Because it's through New Carthage that Hannibal was receiving his supplies, his food and weapons. And by cutting off Hannibal's supply, Hannibal grew weak, and finally, the Romans were able to defeat him. So your second challenge in finding that big idea for your business is to find a point of leverage that others don't see. And the way you do that is by attacking the system rather than the obvious part of the problem. Then, third one is frame shifting. And we're going to go more deeply into frame shifting in a minute. I'm sorry, this is a mistake. That shouldn't say Alexandra Kustanuk. We're going to talk about Alexandra in a little bit. So we're going to talk about me, okay? Me. Alexandra is the reigning women's world chess champion, and so I don't pretend to be, as capable as her, but that's just a mistake. So another day I'm dropping off my kids to school. They say your kids are your best teachers, so I was dropping my kids off to school, and it was winter, and the way we walk out of our house is through the garage, and the garage door is open. They're all bundled up. They've got their hats and gloves, and they've got their scarves on, and they're standing in front of the snow waiting to go into the car, but we can't go into the car because I don't have the car keys. And I'm scurrying around the house looking for the car keys. I look everywhere I think to look, and they're not anywhere that I think to look, so I just change my perspective. I just kneel down to just change my point of view. And once I do that, I see the car keys. They've been hidden behind a piece of furniture. Maybe one of the kids threw it there. And there I grabbed the keys, got in the car, and drove to school. The point is that just shifting your perspective, even if you don't know if that's the right perspective, just changing your perspective allows you to see a possibility that you otherwise wouldn't see. And in a moment, we're going to go through 5 perspectives that you would want to take on your business to see these new possibilities. Then, the disruptive mindset. This frame shifting allows you to generate lots of ideas, and then you create the disruptive mindset, which I said was picking ideas not just that customers will love, but that competitors won't copy. And that means shifting your perspective to see things from your competitor's point of view. So one of my friends started a company called ePrize. ePrize is the leading digital marketing firms. I'm sorry, not digital marketing, sorry. Digital promotions firms. So they do raffles and lotteries. And they're under attack. Some guerrillas broke into their office. And I'm talking guerrilla marketers. I'm talking guerrillas. Their arch enemy, dressed in guerrilla uniforms, broke into their offices, and they're ripping everything apart, pulling out the files, looking for ePrize's keys to success. What is it that ePrize does? Now, it's not really that much of a surprise, because this enemy, called Slither, you can see their logo looks a little bit like Enron's. This is the worst enemy that they could wish for. They launch fake PR campaigns. They send out nasty emails. They hack into the computers. Every time ePrize gets a little bit ahead, Slither is right on their tails. But what is so brilliant about Slither is that it doesn't exist. That Slither was created by ePrize. Because ePrize has been so successful that it doesn't have strong competition. And it's afraid it's going to get weak. So it created a fake competitor called Slither. And what that allows them to do is, at a meeting, you might turn to your colleague at ePrize and say, what would your counterpart at Slither do? Your smarter counterpart. It allows them to turn their perspective on the problem and think from the competitor's perspective. And when you think from the competitor's perspective, it allows you to Be more diligent in picking ideas that competitors won't copy. For example, Apple, you could take all of Apple's products and put them on a table. The most the highest value company in the world, you could put all of their products on one table. Steve Jobs once said, we're as proud of what we don't do as we are of what we do. So that's the disruptive mindset. Thinking from your competitor's perspective and saying no to lots of ideas because they're great ideas like TiVo was and like Vonage were. Great ideas that customers will love, but that eventually the competition can copy. Yeah? Then finally, perception shaping. My greatest challenge has been to change the mindset of people. Muhammad Yunus. My mother's from Bangladesh, where Muhammad Yunus is from, and this is where he created the concept of microfinance and microcredit. And I got a chance to interview him and talk about the challenges. And what he talked mostly about was getting people to see what microfinance was and why it was a good idea. So that's your 5th challenge. Those are the 5 habits. I don't know how many of you can remember these. Mental time travel, attacking the interconnected system, frame shifting, disruptive mindset, and perception shaping. Kind of hard to remember these. So there's an easy way to remember them, and this is what I use when I train people on this, is ideas. Imagine, dissect, expand, analyze, sell. Imagine the future. Dissect the problem, looking for that leverage point. Expand your possible options. Analyze them using a disruptive mindset. And sell. Sell your idea internally and then externally by shaping perceptions. And if you practice these 5 for your business every day, then you will more consistently see disruptive big ideas.